Art, we're live. Thanks for joining me this morning or afternoon, I guess, seeing as you're in Chicago, I believe. But the floor is yours. Why don't you give me your pitch about your startup?
Hey, Connor, nice to meet you again. And Art Sheikh, I'm founder and CEO of Digital Will. Digital Will is a artificial intelligence based technology that is helping the world to gain access to a very essential service, especially in this digital age. So the way we explain it, like we are the guardians of your legacy in digital age. So what we understood and the problem we are solving is people that are passing away, they want to pass on their legacy, which is in form of digital physical assets, wishes, their final plans. There's all of these aspects of their life planning. That is what our technology allows them to do.
So you mentioned legacy. Is it beyond a will? Do you offer services beyond a will, or is it simply digitizing the will or making it a simpler process for people?
It's beyond the will. So when you will is just one of the components of your ultimate legacy, right? The will is
Mhm.
in turn is a PDF document. Legacy is digital. It's your messages, it's your pictures, it's your important asset that you want to pass on. All of those details, and then your life planning, and then doing things about what your life story is. So these are all the elements you want to pass on to your next generation. So we fill that gap.
And so I think that's great, but I think the will would be the first part of it, right? And what's the current process for someone that gets a will, or what's the typical process that someone goes through today to get a will?
Yeah, you in a traditional way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 70% of Americans do not have a will. So they do not have a will because they feel that they do not have enough assets to actually put in those things. So, but what ends up happening is that same group of people have immense amount of digital assets, and that's why you need a digital will. And that is what our invention is. So a technology that can preserve all your digital assets, accounts, subscriptions, everything that your loved one will need after you pass away. So if you actually ask anyone today who loses a loved one, there is one person in charge of putting all your digital accounts and everything together. And it's a big problem in the market. So traditionally, the problem's not really solved because you don't give government and IRS your Chase bank account numbers and your crypto keys and everything. You have to find a vehicle to deliver this to your loved one, even though you don't want them to be running around with your passwords in your life.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point, right? So what does someone do if a loved one does pass away and they don't have that bank account number? What's the process to get access to it? Is there not a process?
I'm, I'm very sure there is a process over here. I lost my father overseas. I can tell you it was very troublesome to gain access. Over here, I'm sure you can gain access, but it probably will take 1,500 phone calls to different banks, get transferred from one to the other, a lot of subscriptions charging you money, and you can't stop it. So there's all of those things can resolve, but it just takes 3 to 6 months.
Okay. And what can
Because
you further to
you're conducting forensic, right? In that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
trying to piece back, look at which websites that they went to. I don't, our users actually don't want all that mess. They want to prepare just like you prepare for life through buying a life insurance. They have digital wills. So when they pass away, all of their instructions, all of the things they want to be done after they're gone, executed through their loved ones.
Yeah. And can you further define digital assets? I mean, is it truly just those online accounts, where you store money in crypto and stocks, or is it beyond that?
It's to each his own. So if you think about today, just in your digital existence, so think about whether you have social media, financial accounts, insurance, all of those things still. Sooner or later, whether if you pass away, somebody needs to take certain actions on those things. Whether it's deactivation of that, whether it's pulling out transferring the money from that, all of those
Mhm.
aspects are all digital. And now, we are now living in a digital age where everything about us is going to be digital. So, but those digital assets, you can't stuff that into it. So think about families, pictures, think about legacy, your life story, all of those things to be able to curate. You create that in your life, so your future generation will be able to access. That's the most important part, and to
Yeah.
access it in digital manner versus in a book, because one book you leave may sit with one person or one child. How does the whole family in the future actually learn about the grandfather's legacy or a father's legacy or a mom that passed away? Yeah. So that is that aspect of legacy planning is
Hmm.
what we see our mission is.
Yeah, I think that's a great mission. So, what's the experience from customers' perspective if they sign up? Is it you mentioned AI, and is it a pretty guided experience, and is it on them to understand everything that needs to be added, or do you walk your customer through that?
Yeah, customer experience is the most important part to us. So when we designed it, and there is actually a recent article written by Olga Mack in the Above the Law about what I'm designing is. So we put the customer in the middle, right, first, okay, and built the experience around the customer to guide them through the process. Now we are just a 6 month old technology in the marketplace, so our
Hmm.
user experience is going to continuously improve because we're putting 4 updates a month basically. But I can tell you everything starts and ends with guidance, and it also the technology has to be simple enough for people to be able to use it. So you can go download the technology from the App Store or Android, download it, uh, be able to set up in about 30 seconds. You'll be able to be in, and you could be creating your will in about a minute. So it's like step one, step two, step three, complete this, add invite, and that how it's work. It's very intuitive as well.
Hmm.
uh, AI we use AI to actually guide us through certain steps around delivery of things in the future, prediction, analyzing certain data to say, hey, these are certain gaps, and then AI to build the documents for what when you want to create your own legal components of your will.
Okay. Yeah. No.
So we're not
Interesting.
a yeah we use AI to make your life a lot easier to where
Hmm.
you have to put less in there.
Yeah, and then from a customer's perspective, is it free initially to sign up, or what's the cost if
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
customer and I
We have
want to use your services?
we have two subscriptions right now, and the third component will be coming in. First one is the essential plan that is free for anyone to use. Okay, you can build your life story. You can build your life plan. If you are named as an executor beneficiary, you'll get to use the technology free. And then anyone who wants to subscribe to Digital Will can pay 9.99
$9.99
a
a
month.
month. And so, who are you targeting? Are you targeting older people, or do you recommend people of any age utilize your service?
Most of our users is between 35 and 55 years old. And what I see is with especially with the young millennial generation and all that, there is immense. A lot of them are monetizing their social accounts, everything. So all of these things creates a even greater need for them to actually look at that, even though they don't have all the homes and physical asset to get the legal will, but they can create their digital component.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, right? Like I'm gonna post this interview on my YouTube channel. So is that what you deal with a lot? Is passing on that would be considered a digital asset, and the ownership in like a YouTube channel or TikTok
Yeah,
or yeah.
yeah, absolutely. These are all of your assets, and you're deciding in when you pass away what needs to happen. This needs to go to my brother, my iOS 4 key pin, and access to my iCloud needs to go to my cousin. Whatever you decide is what the technology will then route and execute.
Okay.
So it takes
So
it takes a normally it requires one person to become the coordinator and facilitator of 20 things that needs to happen, or 200 things that needs to happen. Technology, it makes it easy, so you get what you need to take action on, and everybody else get their own particular piece with their own privacy. Yeah, and then there is reporting and everything for everyone to know all the things task wishes have been completed for the will created and
Yeah.
passed.
Okay, so that's an interesting point. So, like you said, if I want to pass my YouTube channel to my brother, he's added within the application. He's notified. Um,
Yeah, he
and
will be
so,
authorized, legally documented, all of those things from that.
and then I'm wondering if you get a little pushback. I'm just thinking through this. Like, if I were to utilize your service and it's $9.99 a month in perpetuity, and I plan on living a much longer life. I mean, is there any pushback of that cost just extending, 40 years into the future for someone like myself?
Normal wills cost $1,500. Okay,
Okay.
and the reason people don't update their will is the cost of it. Okay, so it's cost and the process and the hassle. Okay, so in your life, if you only updated your will twice, you'll pay more than what you're going to pay with us if you live through that long. But um,
Okay.
you in our will, you pay up till age 65. Okay, so before digital will, think of the CD model. Music was on CDs, and everyone was Virgin stores were selling it and everything. And if with today's attorneys are that process, we are the Spotify version of it. Apple tried to sell the music for 199, so there is some online PDF generation companies that you can buy a la carte services. But if you want to continuously update, as things will continuously change, your YouTube passwords will change. What are you going to do? Go back to the government and then re-update your PDF and give back? So that becomes really costly. So you have to have digital
Mm,
component in a separate entity that you can update and all, as long as the asset is tied to the original.
okay. Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Maybe you can talk to your competition. I mean, is there anyone else doing it like you from a SaaS subscription
I
based model?
I sure hope so, because I'll be very rich after that, because I have patent on this. Yeah, I
Oh,
really
okay,
hope.
okay.
Yeah.
So can you talk to that piece? That's interesting. It's not something I know a lot about, is securing a patent and how you go about doing that as an entrepreneur.
It's a very confusing process.
Okay.
Uh, um, and I think it is still left confusing by design, because they don't want everyone to actually file patent. So
Hmm.
maybe that is the reasoning behind that. But I would tell you, don't go in this fight by yourself. You need to get yourself a good patent attorney that actually can work with founders. Um, Patent attorneys that can work with founders are different from the patent attorneys that can work with other corporations and big companies. So the two different mindset and two different billing rates and stuff. So one of your job, if you are an inventor, I would suggest get a patent attorney and go through that particular process. But it all starts with your uh, idea, and that your
Hmm.
idea is not in the current marketplace and being utilized by anyone. If it is being utilized by people, then it is considered a prior art. So it can no longer be patent protected. So will, for example, is a prior art, because it's
Hmm.
been the same thing for hundreds of years. Okay. So you can't patent that. But what you can patent is a complete new innovation, which is the transfer of all your digital wealth, which original wills don't actually account for.
And so is that what your patent protects, or what does it specifically protect? Nobody else can create a digital
Yeah.
asset will that is subscription based, or is that too broad?
Subscription based doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's the complete process of my digital will process of being able to technology to operate by itself and deliver everything without any other human touching anything.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So maybe we
It's a
could pivot.
billion dollar patent. It's a $1 billion patent.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So maybe we could talk to your aspirations with the company, because if I'm understanding the patent correctly, it sounds like it gives you quite the moat or the competitive advantage. So I mean, what are your goals and aspirations for digital will?
Uh, Digital will be the world de facto technology for transferring anything digital or physical to your loved ones. We play in the digital world. We will get into the physical world as well. And with our aspiration, ultimately we see there are 8 billion people on the face of this earth. We
Hmm.
expect at least half of those people to actually start using this technology to actually be there for their loved ones. So, That's my
And
aspiration. The big game play.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a great aspiration. It's a lofty aspiration. So, I mean, what does that mean? And you may not know, like, from a, if you get to that point and however long it takes, what does that mean from a revenue perspective? Like,
So
are
one
a
thing that
multi-billion-dollar company? Is that your
uh,
goal?
money follows if you solve people's problems.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, tech valuations are obviously because it can scale and ramp up and it can add billions of people on it. So yeah, the company can be worth billions, but the focus has to be solving customer problem. And I believe we next year it will take us one full year to really implement everything that I am putting all in place. So again, right now we are bootstrapped. I mean, my friends and
Hmm.
family have given me checks to keep company building going. But guess what? We have 85,000 people on our technology already. Okay. With a
Hmm.
big chunk of those people that are now utilizing the technology, talking about technology. I actually at 2 o'clock today, I'm speaking with an old friend of mine who's I used to work with her at the company she was and at the company I used to be at Dun and Bradstreet. But she messaged me out of the blue from LinkedIn and said, "My father-in-law needs your service. Can you really talk to him for 15 minutes?" Type of stuff. So I'm getting on the call to just kind of understand and help him through that. But most of our customers never. I mean, 99.99% of the customers never talk to me. They go download and they start using. But as we over the next month, as we close our funding and every aspect that we are working towards, it gives us a great deal of flexibility to be able to start implementing all the things that we need to do. So what you see today is a tiny step of
Yeah.
what we want, and very quickly. So we work at a very rapid pace.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I think you have you put together a great product. And like you said, with that patent and you're solving a real problem. So I'm curious, how are you marketing? Is it mostly growing through word of mouth or um,
Yeah,
is that how you're
yeah,
acquiring customers?
yeah. It's people telling each other. It's again, there is you can't replace organic marketing, right? Like if your
Hmm.
product strikes a chord, it just takes time, but the word gets out. Now, if you can pour some fuel on it, which is add millions of dollars of marketing on it, you can amplify the message faster to people. So that's the difference between making it or not making it. One is grinding it out model. The other one is once it's working for this many people, it will work for millions and billions of people. So that's the mentality of the investors who come in. They come in and they see you have a product market fit, it has global reach potential, and then they look at it and they get excited about that. Like a lot of
Yeah.
VCs, those folks, they don't really want to build a new AI based laundromat type of stuff like that. That's good, but like they know it can only scale that much.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point, and it's interesting if you think about word of mouth marketing. If you build the product, like you said, and you truly solve a problem, and each of your customers tells two people, and then that trend continues. That's kind of how you achieve exponential growth, right? With organically, and you don't have to spend any money on marketing. So, I think it's
Are
interesting.
selling 10.8 people. Our customers are do that's what they're doing because they are bringing on their loved ones to our technology also, so their loved
Yeah.
ones, and they get to
Hmm.
use for free.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or like you said in the previous example, my brother, for example, gets my YouTube channel, and therefore I notify him about the app, and he's like, "Oh, I should use this as well." And so that's kind of a way that you grow
But
as well.
first he comes in because he wants to connect with you so that this when the time comes he gets access to all the things he needs. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's why
Hmm.
he joins technology. When in his life sooner or later he'll realize the importance of creating that, and through your experience may convert him into a customer as well. So now the
Yeah.
family protection kicks in place, and everyone's on the same platform using it. Versus where is this PDF? It's sitting in a basement. I don't know how old is it now. It's dispute because now that executor is dead. Like there's all these complications when you don't update your will. So imagine the whole world cannot update their will every single year like that. The infrastructure is not
Yeah.
built. It costs too much money.
Yeah, yeah, it's a pain, right? As well, people don't want to do it.
Time,
Um,
time. 8
yeah,
billion people going through 3 to 5 hours worth of no productivity.
yeah, yeah. I makes sense to
And if
me.
we
So out, yeah,
and if we
go
knew
ahead.
when we are going to die,
Hmm.
I mean, the problem would be solved. we don't
Yeah.
we don't need life insurance. We don't need anything. Like if we know when our car is going to get into an accident, we can just turn insurance on one day before that.
Hmm. Yeah, right.
That's
Yeah. So you'd get 1 month, right? You get what, 9.99 for 1 month, but it doesn't work that way. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I want to go back to, you said 70% of people in the USA do not have a will, but I'm just thinking through someone, you hear a lot about how most Americans live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have a lot of assets. Many are just in debt in general. I mean, do those types of people still need a will?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And for what reason?
Think about what's your precious digital assets. What would your father's digital asset will be? Uh, His will be pictures. He will have or she
Mm.
will have father, mother, parents, grandparent. They'll have some wishes. They want to be buried in a certain manner. They want certain services out there. There's all these aspects of their wishes and things they want to be done after. So if they don't tell you, you don't sit down and talk, and you remember everything. They're documenting all of these things so that when the time comes, whether you are there or not, the people are there who are going to execute all of those things, and then the tech company and the technology that stands behind.
Yeah, so it's almost as if, it's those non-monetary assets that are important as well and that are digital now.
Yeah, it can be monetary asset. You can put
Yeah.
your watch. You absolutely physical assets are there. Absolutely.
Mm.
So, I mean, let's just look at this. You have these headsets, headphones you're wearing. Okay, let's say these are made with gold. Okay, and you want to pass this on to your son when he turns 18, or your grandchild when he turns 18. One thing is you can put it in some lockbox and hope somebody finds it, and 18 years later, or you can give it to us to store this thing, and 18 years later deliver it to the grandson. So there is options that will develop out of it, and the services we will provide as that. So a lot of people like watches, rings, and all. Those are something that they want to be stored away, so that ultimately at the right age and time it can get to the loved one.
Okay. I also want to talk about people that have a higher net worth, and I don't know a ton about it, but it's my understanding, right? If a family has a high net worth, it's typically passed down in a trust. So I don't know if your product assists with things like that, or maybe you can also speak to, like, what are the tax implications of passing on assets with monetary value to loved ones?
So your give me your first question again.
Trusts.
Sure.
So.
So that's part of our roadmap, something that we do not play in. Those are that adds more legal complexity, and so
Mhm.
we're gonna stay away from that and focus on the most important part that majority of the people in the world actually want and need, type of stuff. So that's the first one. Now give me your second one question.
Yeah, so I guess maybe you could speak to, for those that use a traditional will, are
Mhm.
there tax implications when they're passing on whatever it is, real estate, stocks, savings accounts to loved ones?
Tax laws varies country by country and region by region. Okay, so
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah, sure.
so again, uh, but I can tell you, still, whether you leave this in a digital will or not, nobody can stop taxes if the county and the city or this or the country wants to levy taxes. So I'm not a tax advisor, can't advise on that, but it varies from country to country and all. But if your brother has your YouTube channel and he keeps getting the check, there you've transferred that ownership. There's a lot of that area on that, because that's your wish to pass that on. The only thing they can do is they can stop you, but they can charge him on his future earnings or something. But again, something
Yeah.
people concerned with should always consult tax part as a result of it, and I'm not allowed to give tax.
Yeah, yeah, no, okay. I think that makes sense, right? So your service is specifically for
I'm
the
I'm an
will,
Uber.
and
I'm an Uber.
yeah.
You want something from point A delivered to point B 3 years from now, 1 year from now. After that, things coordinated. That's what we facilitate in the middle.
Yeah, and then everyone should have their own tax
Yes,
professional CPA that advises on what the implications of receiving the assets within your platform,
yes.
and what
It's
that
no different
indicates, what
than
the
what it would
consequences
be.
are.
It won't. It's no different than what it would be anyways. Even
Hmm.
if you die without the will, they'll just keep it. So much of that and
Yeah,
probate
yeah.
time and hassle. So there is a lot of that out there.
So it sounds like you have pretty rapid growth plans. You have quite a few customers already. I'm curious, like what your team looks like. Are you the sole member of the Digital Will team right now, or do you have a team supporting you?
No, trust me, it's there's not one person can do this shit.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Okay.
it's not. We have 11 people that are working back and forth and stuff. So it's some are full time, some are part time type of stuff. So, but we plan on building our team next month once the funding part is over, and all. Once you have the big check in, that's when you wanna put more structured approach to it. So we have a plan that we want to deploy over the next 90 days to get ourselves really lifted up.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, no, I think that totally makes sense. And then maybe just to round it out on Digital Will, and then maybe we could shift to you and kind of your why and how you got to where you are. But I'm curious, it sounds like you're putting a lot of effort and thought into creating an amazing product. What does that process look like, or what advice do you have someone that wants to build an app or a technical product that is a great product? Is that something you had a major role in, or do you have a technical background that allowed you to develop it?
I designed it.
Okay.
It's my product. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. So very interestingly, when I wanted to build the product, right? Like, and as a founder, you sit down with designers and you're like, this,
Hmm.
I want technology to do this, or you talk to the product team. It's just people and designers will still need clear direction of what you're trying to build. So you ultimately, as a founder or the product manager, have to perfectly visualize how all these components are going to work together to ultimately deliver the customer experience. And then through that comes in design, and then comes in development after that. So founder's role is fundamentally important, because life doesn't is startups don't really work where the founder is just like, yeah, I have this idea and I'll just give it to the team, and they'll just build that. It goes into failure.
Hmm.
I recently posted, maybe a month ago or so, a quote from small video clip from Steve Jobs, where he talks about like the process is the ultimate magic, and it changes and evolves over time, and there is no one person that can get you there. It is the
Hmm.
continuous working with the team, and the clashes and everything helps refine the process. So the no design, like what you put on day one and day 200, is million miles away from each other. So it's just like you can't rush the creative process.
Yeah, it's a very iterative process, right? A lot of feedback, a lot of testing, and
Yourself also, you're looking at design, you're looking at experience, you're looking at next steps, everything, making things easy for the customer. And it's very hard to actually do that when you do it at a rapid pace and in some sort of a cookie cutter factory way. It just doesn't work. You have to really know ins and outs of, in order to build this, I had to know ins and out of the legal process, and I had to know ins and out of what's possible with technology in there,
hmm.
and
Hmm.
if you can infuse artificial intelligences around that.
And how did you get really good at this process? It seems like this isn't the first time you've done this. So, I mean, for someone that's just starting out, they want to build a product, maybe they don't have a ton of technical background. What do you recommend?
To build a product, you don't need a technical background. uh,
Okay.
uh, I don't code at all.
Hmm.
I'm one of those
Hmm.
CEOs. So what ends up happening in most of the lifetime, like a lot of the developers earn the people that know the coding language and all become create the design as well. That's why you see when technical people design products, they build very shitty products. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
It's just one of those things. It's very industrial design, because these are tech guys, right? So they're not the ultimate designers and everything. But then when they both work together, then that's when they build really good products. So you have to, in a good design, you have to incorporate the design element, and then you have to design the reality of what needs to be accomplished. And if you can infuse that, is the best possible scenario to have that. So I always recommend that you should have separate designers, and founders and coders should never be part of that design. They should be team that works together.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It makes a much more well-rounded approach. And then one final question, because it sounds like you need to work with those coders or those technical people. Is it in this day and age cost prohibitive to create an application or a product like that, or what kind of capital does it take?
So there's one thing I do want to say this thing for the audience so that it may save somebody's, just like when they are not really sure about pulling a trigger and going into this world. It takes a lot of money to get into technology business. Okay.
Hmm.
Regardless of what you're seeing on TikTok and what's seeing
Hmm.
on Instagram, and these people sitting in and saying, "Yeah, you can build the next revolutionary app and all." I'm all for big ideas and this and that and all, but all this facade that these people are selling, so you can give them a development contract. Okay, which means you will write 25, 30, $50,000, and you have no idea. They'll take your money, and then turns out that, oh my God, your process was completely wrong. You are building a technology before you have actually designed the technology and tested the market and all the cheaper ways that you can do things. So don't get
Hmm.
sucked into any of this. If you if you believe you have a great idea, your first people you should talk to is your friends and family. Okay. If your idea is protectable, don't talk to anyone. Protect your idea first legally. Okay. Through a
Hmm.
patent. Don't
Hmm.
share it. If you share it, you talk about it, it becomes a prior art, which means you yourself have incriminated yourself by
Hmm.
ruling itself out. So don't talk about it, go file the patent if you believe that is protected. But once you have filed the patent, focus on the design. If it is especially in the technology side of the world, it has to be about what are you delivering, what problem you are solving, and how are you going to acquire customers. You have to answer those questions to yourself really honestly, because I can tell you, if you don't know how to acquire that, it takes a lot of money. I've spent a, close to $10 million doing what I'm doing, so I
Okay.
can't go back.
Yeah. 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 You're all in. No, I think that's a good point. I think, right, it's about establishing product market fit before you just go approach a developer and say, hey, here's, like you said,
Yeah,
20 grand.
a lot of people rush into development. Stop, because once you write millions lines of code, the cost to update those and change those is immense, and it's more
Mm.
complicated. Okay,
Hmm.
so you got to build this right, and they don't tell you that because they want all their workers, employees, to be billing you hours. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
of course they're going to tell you to just build it. No, don't build it. Design it. Put it on a damn paper napkin if you have to. Okay,
Hmm.
and,
Hmm.
and think through the process, talk to people, learn, then get into the wireframing and design. And once you have that design tightened up, then focus on development. Otherwise, it's like you're going in a line, and then you got to zigzag everything because you have to lock in your design before you do anything in development. Otherwise, you're just costing yourself millions of dollars more.
Yeah. And so you've designed digital will, right? And so I'm curious, from your perspective, what do you think about when you're designing like a highly usable or user friendly app with a UI that's amazing, right? I think about things that I use are really big companies like Amazon, where you're buying on something on Amazon and it's 2 clicks. It shows up at your door in 2 days. So it's a great user experience. So what do you think about in terms of user experience when you're designing your apps?
It needs to be as easy as buying a book on Amazon or ordering a Uber. Really, that's how
Hmm.
easy will creation should be, and that is what we are going to deliver. It's going to take us 3 more months to do that.
And so do you model it? Do you go onto the Uber app, the Airbnb app, for example, or Amazon and say, hey, what are they doing? Or it's just
We're different in a technology wise, right? Because we are solving completely different problems in very different ways. It's not about deliver this package there in
yeah.
an hour. Ours is to deliver upon that. So there's even things like how we validate your death, unlock the will, how we play into security.
Mm.
So there's a lot of those that comes in. So there was no solution except designing it yourself. And that's what I was talking about as the designer when we talked about it, sitting down
Hmm.
with designers and all. Initially, people just didn't understand. Like, they were like, okay, I'll just draw you a Uber app. I'll draw you a food
Mm.
delivery app type of stuff. But that's not what we want to do, is just to copy that design, is to deliver the experiences based on what you need to do next. So that's the right experience, and how technology immediately takes away all the complexity and the jargons and everything around it and tells you exactly the steps, 7 steps you need to complete to safeguard your legacy. And you continue to do that over time. It's wills, digital wills and all are not a one-time process. It's a lifetime process, as things will continuously change, add, delete.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And so maybe we could pivot to more about you and why. What's your why, and why did you choose the space? I think we've established that it's a immense opportunity, but I just want to see if there's anything beyond that that drives you.
I didn't choose this. uh, I didn't choose this.
Okay.
It's I feel it chose me, and I'll just tell you the only reason why I'm doing this thing is because my father left the
Hmm.
shoebox of memories, wishes, things he needed to be done on his behalf in the future. So, as coming from a technology background, that's where some of the best founders will be, who are working in certain line and see a problem that technology can replace, and understand the back end of technology to actually know how to deliver that. Okay. So I was working at Salesforce. Through this idea and evolution, my thought was, I see how Salesforce can help you deliver everything between customer and the corporations, right? Like, if you're working with AT&T, you don't even know how many companies behind use Salesforce, but they use it. You
Hmm.
don't really know it. So
Yep.
we need to apply that same methodology to your family, right? Because when you lose loved one, everyone needs to do things, work together, collaborate. How do you get that done? Put them on digital will and let the technology route things and everything smartly to get things completed. Otherwise, it requires a dedicated person to remember everything and keep things updated. It gives the owner or creator the flexibility and privacy. So if I don't want 4 people to get access to my iCloud, I give that to my brother and tell him what he needs to do. But
Yeah. Yeah. And I think at the core of it, right, it sounds like it's the people behind it, right? Because obviously you're dealing with a very delicate situation, but
yeah,
it's a reality that we all face. So I think
it
it's
has to
great.
be done sensitively, and it has to be done privately, and it has to be done securely as well. So all your digital assets, imagine if that's sitting in somebody's notebook in their home, that's not really safe, or in an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. So with digital will, all your passwords and everything you pass on to your loved one, they don't get delivered to them today. It only gets delivered after you pass away. Okay.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
things don't unlock that. So they know that they will have access to your Apple password, but they won't have that password, and that we control that key until you pass away, because we don't our users don't want to pass on those things, because more people knowing that in your life is more security hazard for you long term, with all the frauds and everything that's happening online.
Yeah, and maybe you can expand on that point of like from a cybersecurity or a security perspective, right? If someone is utilizing your app and their crypto keys and their banking passwords are stored in there, how do you protect
Mhm.
people's data?
See, I can't. I would love to, but
Hmm.
we have a patent on this.
Okay.
Not okay. And I can tell you, this is all I can tell you. We have made this foolproof in that. Okay. So anything that you store, in the most simplistic manner, I'll tell you, let's say if you gave me your password, or a crypto key, you don't need that crypto key again. So you have given us that input one way. Okay. We only are going to bring that back after you pass away. And we have applied all the security measures and the layers and the encryptions and everything beyond that. Okay.
Hmm.
But even then, these are timed where it will only be unlocked after you pass away. So there is limiters on that. Nobody can get into that database because they don't know where it exists.
Okay. Hey, no, I think that's
That's
fair.
that's the
It,
layaway,
it,
easy way
it,
to explain that. But this is important. this is fundamentally important. We're going to have
Hmm.
financial institutions behind us who will partner with us ultimately to gain access to some of these things, because insurance companies and all need this access also.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've put a lot of thought into it. Obviously, if you're creating something like this that will be at the forefront of the decisions you're making, it sounds like you have it taken care of.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. I'm curious. You mentioned you were working with Salesforce. How does someone, or how did you go from full time job at Salesforce to full time founder and entrepreneur? What does that take?
Stupidity.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
Hey, that's a real
so like,
answer.
so some of these awards and stuff in the background, I mean, these are Salesforce. I had a very great job. I had amazing leaders I used to work for. The only problem is that sometimes being a founder, you're not looking to be a founder. It just happens to you and a light bulb goes on. Okay.
Hmm.
So the light bulb went on in my head as I was thinking about certain thing. I'm like, that, and you connect those pieces together. And many founders who may listen to this or in the future, they'll go through that moment if they haven't gone through, where the light bulb turns on, where you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you don't know how you're gonna really get there. But
Hmm.
that, for me, that moment was happened in 2016 in that sense. So that's when my light bulb moment was. But I'll tell you, once, so I don't give that advice that I don't normally take myself. So I said everyone to be careful when you get into the tech business. It takes a lot of money. So when I had the idea, I didn't just jump into say, oh, let's go build it and all. I actually left the idea for 6 months and didn't touch it. But I kept going back to that. I need to do something about this. Okay.
Hmm.
And it took
Hmm.
me 6 months. During that 6 months, I had to think about that, by going this founder route, how my life will be impacted. Okay. And how this job will literally have to change my life, everything. Or out goes all the social events, friends, hanging out, board, leg days, gone. Okay. And gone for
Hmm.
years. So that's the sacrifice I want every founder who is inspired to do something to think about it, because it's not easy. Okay. Anyone that says easy is selling you a masterclass.
Yeah. No, I think it's fair. I can only imagine, right? You take the plunge, and then I think you can go back, right? But I think you need to realize what you're getting yourself into.
You have to. You have to.
Yeah.
Because it's what happens is, if you're not mentally prepared, being a founder is like being squished. Okay. And it will really, life and everything will squish you, and see how far you can take it. If you don't quit, that's when you really start winning.
Okay.
It's
And
just
so this, yeah,
it most
go ahead.
founders will you talk to them and you'll see, and I'm no different. And it's somehow crazy on how life works like this. We think we are all different, but it's not. Most founders have gone through a point where they were like one straw away from breaking. Okay. And then help arrive. Sometimes it takes that. Sometimes you just scratch and you win a lotto and your life is great. I'm not those one of those easy person. My life was not easy for me. I had to work hard for
Yeah.
it. So I just look at, the harder I work, the easier it will get.
Yeah, that's a good outlook. So it's a good segue to my next question. What would you say are the top three qualities that it takes to be a successful founder?
Successful founder, number one, the most important thing is your mission, why you're going to do this. Okay. If I
Hmm.
didn't have my mission and I wasn't excited about to do this, I would have quit long ago, because it was not easy. And okay.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's number one, is you have to be really true to your mission. Otherwise, work in some tech company, go work at another startup. Okay. You don't need
Hmm.
to, startup is not for everyone. Go work in a startup. Don't go work in boring as public companies. You're not going to learn anything. You're not going to work on anything. You want, the best advice I can give anyone listening who's wants to be in the tech world, want to get involved in startup, go work in startup for 2 years. That's like working 10 to 20 years in any other company.
Hmm.
Okay. Then you can go in and go start your own startup. Learn a little bit more. Don't jump in that fast. There's a lot of things you have to learn in this process. You have to, as a founder, if you are in the tech business, you need to learn design, you need to learn marketing, you need to learn branding. All of these things are going to suck a lot of money from you. So these things are all you have to learn to use that. So as a founder, if you don't know Adobe, which I don't expect anyone to know, get to know Canva. Canva is a great
Hmm.
design tool for people. I use it.
Yeah.
Okay. uh, Learn Figma, how to design in Figma. Okay. If you did that, you're not paying 50 to $100 an hour for people to be sitting and designing these things. So there is always you can contribute. If you're a coder and developer, then get a designer and then you can code. But coding comes later. Don't rush to code.
And when you say work for a startup, um, I know, for example, that like you said, startups are often strapped for cash. So is there kind of a sweet spot of if you want to work for a startup, something to target, or should you just expect to take a pay cut and say, hey, I'm going to take a salary that's going to at least cover my living expenses, but I know I'm just doing it to learn. I mean, what do you recommend?
That's a personal decision. Okay. So
Hmm.
I'll tell you, and that is one of the reasons why so many people want to be founders, but they don't become one. So I have a friend, Dan, who has who have worked at Salesforce for many, many years, has a tremendous bone and he can do things, innovative things, and he can think, but he's always is too scared to make that leap out there, right? Type of stuff, because
Hmm.
reliability of a check is extremely important. So you have to really see where you are in your life. Okay. So where I was in my life, I was willing to make a jump. Okay. Compared to that, if I had two young kids, I probably would have not taken that jump. Okay. Because I
Hmm.
probably will have to sell the kids in order to keep the companies going. Okay. And
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
cost,
100%.
kid pays a lot these days, though. That's the good thing.
There you go.
But that's the part, is it's a personal decision. But I will tell you, if I didn't do, after 6 months of putting this thing on the side, and I didn't do what I'm doing today, I would have regretted it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And regret is something I didn't want it to go through. I I may my again, no guarantees out there. I can do all the great things and still fail. But all I'm doing the best thing for our consumers and our members. And if I keep doing this, I believe that we'll be a very big company because nobody else is solving that problem.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, I think it's important to have a long term horizon. I think you talked about getting to 4
10 years.
billion. And
10
yeah.
years. You should. So take 2016 and we are in 2003. I'm 7 years in already.
Hmm.
Okay. Foundership, you have to look at your horizon as a 10-year struggle. And that's why it is so important to actually be really mentally strong and say, I'm going to give 5 to 10 years of my great years of my life, which I could be on the lake, Havasu, and boating and TikToking and gaining followers and all of those things I give up, and beer and buddies and all. Yeah, every founder lives in a very lonely island because you're not able to hang out with your friends because they have a cadence and you cannot be part of it because you have to do so many jobs out there. So it helps to have other uh, good team members behind you. So like I would never be able to build a technology without my friend and my CTO Rafi Sayed. I mean,
Hmm.
anything we design, he can turn it into a technology. Just having that type of power is unbelievable. Like that type of asset who is fully behind. And Rafi has been with me for 5 years now, together working. So over time, you'll build this amazing bond with your team members, and it's a brotherhood that you'll live by for the rest of your life because you went through the ringer. Same thing that will be happen to if you went to some war and you were in the same barracks with that buddy and you come back, you will have that bond. That's what the startup bonds are. But anyone that wants to go work at a startup, don't worry about being cash startup. Look at the right industry you want to work in. So if you are passionate about fintech, look at fintech startup and pick out of the hundreds of those startup, pick the ones you want to work for. If you don't know how to find those startups on Crunchbase, I would go to any venture capital company. So get on Chat GPT and Google top US venture capital firms early stage. It will give you Sequoia, it will give you
Hmm.
Excel, it will give you Insight Ventures, all these names out there. Go to their site, look at all the companies they are investing in, and look at those CEOs and their websites and contact them and go work for them. But it takes research just like you'll do for any job. You should never blast email your jobs anyways.
Yeah. 100%. I think that's great advice. And I kind of want to shift to you're giving great advice, I think, to people that want to consider starting a company. But was there really good advice that you received in your journey, or what's the best advice you've received that has helped you get to where you are today?
But I I had a lot of encouragement early on. So that's where I want founders to know that early on, if somebody can shit on your idea, you lose motivation. Okay. And so you need to ask advice to the right people whose advice you want to take. Okay. So that's what's important, because initially when I talked about to this to people, let me tell you how I would use this. Okay. Let me tell you, I have this problem. Let me tell you what happened to my grandfather. Let me tell you what this happened when this one low. So your idea will get validated, and that's your reinforcement into it. Okay. But make sure that
Hmm.
you ask advice from the people that you can really count on for that advice. So don't just, it cannot be random, because a lot of small minds cannot see big ideas. So it depends on what you are doing also. Get the right person's advice is better. But going through, if you have a startup working for aspiration, I would look at all the VCs, startups they're investing in, and I would go work at these companies for a couple of years. That's pretty much time. And it's 10 to 20 years of learning capabilities. Like when we used
Okay.
to work at Salesforce, at the pace we worked, it was 4 times to 10 times more than what Microsoft reps work. This is what Salesforce CRM always beated Microsoft CRM.
Hmm.
It was just completely, this was a machine. Top 1% of the talent in the world works for Salesforce.
Okay. Yeah. And so it's picking that company and it'll push you to grow.
Yeah,
Um,
I
to,
learned a lot with things the way my former CEO Mark Benioff built his company. So again, startup is not just money; it's the experience and the knowledge that is 100 times billions of dollars worth of knowledge you're going to learn with passionate founders. So if you had one thing to do to pick a company, if you can't decide, pick the founder that you feel is the most passionate about and closely aligned to what your core values are.
no. Yeah. I think that's great advice. And I think it's tough, right? People can't look that long into the future and say, hey, if I put 10 years into growing myself, that,
But not everyone can be a billionaire. There's only 2,500 billionaires in the world, brother. So
yeah.
it's a fact. It's not for everyone. So the people that would do are the crazy ones that would do. Absolutely. And out of that, there is 10x of those people do, but 95% of startups fail straight out.
So, couple questions there. You say it's a crazy one. And so I'd say you're one of the crazy ones. Would you say that that trait you were born with, or it's something that you learned?
You'll see that sign in you. Okay. One of the earlier question that you had asked about, like what traits about a founder. So when I looked at myself, like in my whole entire life, I've always been unmanageable. Okay. I did my job at the top, but I didn't needed others people's input. I was always that person. I figured it out. Okay. I had great leaders who were my great friend. They supported me whenever I needed the help, but they gave me the space to do. So I've realized that's what I did well. So it's really important to know who you are. If you have that personality, you are CEO material. If you can take on all the different areas and understand how marketing can happen, what happens in operation. You have to know that type of stuff before you can even hire people. Okay. Because a lot of people
Hmm.
will hire wrong people. Once you know all these roles, you can hire someone better. So it's really important for the founder to be the crazy one, but the crazy one doesn't get you there. You have to be smart as well also. So it has to be both in there. Not just I'm a big risk taker and just jumps off from San Francisco Bridge and like, oh, let's see. Yeah, let's yeah, 9 out of 10 people will die.
Okay. And so, what is my next question? What is the quickest way to fail if you're starting a business, if you're a founder? What's the easiest way?
What's the easiest way to fail is to run out of money
Okay.
or not having enough money. So I can tell you very seldom, I mean, there is bad ideas. Okay. Don't take me wrong. But those people can be coached if they get the right advice early on, that don't go on this path. Okay, this is
Hmm.
not real business, because a lot of people first go in and try to solve the problem, but they don't understand it takes money to solve the problem. So somebody has to give you money to keep going. So if you can't earn the money from a customer, and you haven't thought through how customers will pay and how will you acquire customer, building and releasing a technology by itself doesn't really work. You still have to put marketing dollars and tell hundreds and thousands of people about it, who then start talking to each other. If you have gotten a chain mail that used to say in the old times is that make 10 copies and pass it on to other people, this will bring you good luck. A lot of people did that, but somebody had to write that chain also, and then that's how it creates. So it takes a while to get an engine going first, okay, and it's really hard in the start. And if you don't
Hmm.
have cash, you can build something, spend all your money, and run out and not have marketing dollars. A lot of founders I see make that mistake as well. So you wasted all your time, and you can't pay. If you can't spend 50% of your money on marketing, try not to get in this business.
Hmm. Okay. No, I think it's the simple things, right? I think you would think that would be obvious, but I would imagine that a lot of people don't think that through
No,
down to a granular level.
we postpone certain things we don't want to deal with. So
Hmm.
going through marketing budgets, all those type of stuff, like this takes time, effort, and energy in there. Like the people don't really fully know, and then they get surprised. They think it takes this $1 to acquire a customer. Next thing they know, I know it actually takes $100 to acquire a customer. So if you're selling $20 good and you're acquiring customer for 100, I don't care how many of your buddies like it. It's not a business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I'm not investing.
So I want to say one formula for everyone to know how VCs really in the bottom look at it. Okay. So VCs look at a startup from growth and all that perspective. Most important is how much can you earn from that customer before he deletes you? Okay. And how much do you have to spend in marketing them to acquire them?
Hmm.
So if you spend $10 to acquire a customer and you sell $40 of good, you make $30 profit minus your expenses. That's a great business. If you make 10 and you spend 10, it depends on if you can add millions of customers, then the margins will improve. So that's how they basically look at what a customer acquisition cost is and what's your lifetime value of a customer.
Yeah. So it sounds like if you want to start a business, that you need to understand that from the
Yeah,
get go.
you understand that. You know, if you have a business model, if the equation can even work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. No, I think that's great advice. And I know just to round us out here, I mean, do you have any closing thoughts? I mean, I want to just give you the floor. Where can people find out more about Digital Will and yourself?
Absolutely. Digitalwill.com, very easy to find online or on in Instagram. People can follow, and obviously available in App Store and Google Play in 198 countries.
All right. All right. Well, thank you. And I'll certainly put the links to your website, to the App Store in the description. And I appreciate you taking the time. I certainly learned a lot. I think the audience will as well. So I wish you the best of luck with Digital Will.
Connor, thank you so much. Great being on there. Thank you for our audience for listening.
Yep.